allow the tree committee applications to Zoom in for their interviews. Both candidates are out of town and have small window of time for interviews, so.
So moved. Second.
I'm gonna have a motion and a second. Any correspondence? Okay, all right. Motion carried. Corey, I'll turn it over to you to
Okay, so,
handle it.
I guess first we have the administrative committee, and what we
Oh,
have.
I'm sorry. I thought we were going into the interviews.
We are, and I am, under the administrative committee, the first item we'll take care of is the tree committee applicants and allow us to have time for their interviews. That's the first thing. That would be
Okay,
that motion.
all right.
So that's
Okay,
fine.
so you want me to go with the Town of Edenton election cost agenda item first? And Mayor Stallings, Corey had asked the elections board to get together for us some costs for the upcoming election in the spring, and Terry has gotten back to Corey about that, and based on prior voting percentages and turnout, he's given us an estimate, I believe, between $9,000 and $11,000.
Between 10 and 11.
$10,000 and $11,000, and he emphasized that was his best guess, but he did use some stats that he had pulled to try to give us that educated guess.
Is that right in accordance with what we normally spend?
He said that that's roughly, this year's election should be roughly 80% of what we spent last year, and that's what he was basing his numbers on. So there's about a 20% margin of error built into that, $10,000 to $11,000 estimate.
And do we need any recommendation or any action on that? I think that was just forwarded to us out of, we had a curiosity and just wanted to know that.
No action required. That's just a update for council.
All right, with that agenda item being discussed and no action necessary, we'll move to the tree committee application interviews. And Corey, do we have those people present via Zoom or otherwise electronically?
Yes, we do. And so we have 2 applicants here today. There are actually 3 positions that we are filling, but we only have 2 applications at this time. Mrs. Ingles we have on with Zoom. She could not be here. And also we have Mr. Ahern here with us in person, and so that's a surprise. But since Mrs. Ingles is zooming in for a small window of time, if we could start with her for the interview, that would be wonderful. But the tree committee does have 3 total vacancies, and we're anticipating with your approval filling 2 of those positions within the very near future.
And having 1 vacancy remaining after we name these 2 positions is not going to affect our ability, or that committee's ability, to transact business or take votes or anything.
No, and there is 1 more application that we may interview at our next meeting, at our next committee meeting. But this was the one that had the larger number of openings that we would like to start filling.
And this committee has been meeting with 3 people for the past 3 or 4 months.
Yes.
So we're being okay, but it'd be better to have 2
Exactly.
2 more heads on something.
Well, if the more experienced councilman, y'all have undergone these interviews before, I'm going to defer to you guys first, since y'all done it before Roger and I would ask any questions.
The mayor probably go around the room, right, Mayor? That's how you usually do it.
Okay, yeah, you start off.
We got Susan. Why do you wish to be on the tree committee?
I wish to be on the tree committee because I am a tree hugger. Trees are one of my favorite, I was going to say creatures, but trees are just wonderful, and our town is blessed with a large quantity of very wonderful trees, despite the losses we've had in recent storms. Or in storms of the years, I should say, not so much quite recent ones, but every storm, of course, brings some more trees down. And that means we have to be careful to take care of of the trees we got. We have to know them and love them and respect them and understand their qualities, understand the characteristics of the kind of tree that one is. And when they do succumb to a storm or to old age or to the whims of the neighbors, we need to know how to replace them effectively. I don't know that this would be part of my job on the tree committee, but would it be part of the job to make recommendations? Because I would certainly have opinions on that.
It would be part of the job.
Is it part of the job?
It would be part of your job to make recommendations, yes.
Yeah, good. So, for instance, when the willow oak in my yard was damaged I guess it was damaged before Hurricane Isabel. It was trimmed in preparation for Isabel. It continued to suffer and finally was a threat to the house and had to come down. And so we immediately replaced it with a tree that, given current circumstances, rising water, is going to be better equipped to withstand life that close to the water. So the willow oak was getting its feet very wet, and probably partly because of that was susceptible to the fungus that took it out. The swamp chestnut oak that we planted would live just fine in a swamp. And trees drink so much water. They drink gallons and gallons and gallons of water. So the trees that are near our water, and the whole town is near the water, but the trees that are near our waterfront are a very important part of our resilience strategy. Again, I don't know if that's part of the job of this committee to say, but I do know the town has to have a strategy for being resilient in the face of rising water, having risen 18 inches since 1929. So those are some reasons that I want to be on the tree committee. Our town has trees I want to help protect. Shall I babble on, or do you want to ask me a different question next?
That's up to the rest of the council.
I'll ask you one. As long as you know half of what your mother knew, you're the lady for the job.
Thank you. I'm not sure I know half, but I do know, he and I grew up in the very same place, around the very same trees, and with the very same love and respect for trees. And here is what I told Craig when he reached out to me about being present this evening. I had just been on a business trip, and I'm extending it in order to spend Thanksgiving with some of my family who are not in Edenton. But I told him I was the keynote speaker at an annual meeting of an organization called the Urban Wood Network, which is about trees first, wood later. But the key thing about the Urban Wood Network is taking care of our trees and realizing the highest, best value of the wood after those trees have to come down in the circumstances that we've just talked about. We don't want any tree to come down a moment before it has to. And I do know that in our town, like in other towns, many citizens need to understand that even though that branch looks like it comes towards your roof, it's perfectly safe, and it's doing you more good in providing you shade, for instance, than it is providing any threat. So people do need to understand that, but sometimes trees have to come down. Therein lies an opportunity for the town. There are $26 billion being left on the table in our country every year with wood that comes down in urban areas and is not sent to a sawmill for being made into furniture. Y'all know I work for a furniture related chipping, and it's great that in our town you can get local mulch, but we could perhaps in some cases realize an even higher value for trees that we do have to lose. So there's another reason I want to be on the committee.
Great.
And finally, I have my favorite trees in town. We've got a champion Crape Myrtle that I go and visit regularly with and worry about. We've got wonderful gum trees. We've got fabulous big old trees. We've got too many pecans that are coming down. It looks to me like, and things like pecans that are a native tree and provide food for us if we want it, as well as for the squirrels, I think are especially a treasure of our town.
You don't have any questions?
No, she answered everything you wanted to ask.
Well, Susan, we appreciate your interest. Your enthusiasm is certainly contagious, and we recognize the importance you place on trees, so we appreciate your willingness to step forward. And I'm like Mayor Pro Tem Bond, in your answers, you took up all the questions that I had, so we appreciate it. If no one else has any questions, I think that's all that we need to hear from Susan. Thanks, Susan. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Susan.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm pleased at the prospect of serving.
Okay, and I don't know, do we bring him forward, or is he sitting there?
If you want me to be, I'll be right here, it's fine.
Okay.
I'm Bill Ahern, and I've been in Edenton for 12 years. I grew up in Connecticut, in a woodland area. I've always been with trees, and always loved trees. When I came here, there were a lot of trees I didn't know, but I've been learning what I'm supposed to learn about these trees. I've been watching some come down and wondered why, without knowing why. And I've tried to examine areas where I thought trees ought to be repaired, and sure enough, it wasn't long before somebody came and did something with them. And I have no idea what all of the process is. I've been invited to join the commission. I'd love to be a member. I have the time to do it. I'm retired. I understand that we're trying to maintain a standard here that has to do with our standing as a tree city, and that we have certain obligations and guidelines to follow to maintain that membership. So I'm interested in that. I also want to use the knowledge that the commission has over many years to learn myself about what trees are here, what needs to be done to them, why some are taken down, why some are not. Lots of things for me to learn, but I've got an open mind and I'm ready to learn. I also want to be of service to Edenton. I don't have any specific things that I do for the town at this point, other than live here, pay my taxes, and what everybody else does.
Thank you for that.
And I shovel my walk. That's not so good anymore for me. Anyway, so I'm doing fine with that, and effectively, I'm ready to go to work. I can start tonight. I also have a 6:30 meeting I gotta be at, so ask away.
Thank you, Bill.
You know, Bill, I think you're a lot like Susan. I think Craig may have a question, but your enthusiasm is obvious, and you answered the questions that I had
Okay.
as you were talking to us. So
Okay.
I agree.
I appreciate you stepping
Great,
forward.
thanks. I'll look
Without
forward to serving if I can.
I appreciate your enthusiasm, just like
Okay.
Susan.
Absolutely.
This town needs lots more trees, son. Yeah.
We might be just getting ready to have the most enthusiastic tree committee.
Too enthusiastic, we gotta get rid of that guy.
We lost so many trees in Isabel, and a lot of them have been replaced, a lot of them have not, so.
that's
Well,
right.
one thing I'd like to say is I hope that y'all, when, in your deliberations, you know, if you're selected, we should, I think that, is that the trees, like, there used to be elms, and they went up and over everything, instead of these trees that grow into things. And I think we need to, we need canopy trees to replace some of the trees that we currently have, so you don't have to trim them as much and all of that. And, there are some elms that are now Dutch elm disease resistant. So, Edenton used to be called the city of elms, and there are about 20 of them left if you walk around. But, it'd be nice to try to see if we could replant those with a disease resistant type.
I had a tree in my backyard that was about 170 feet high and was dead as a doornail. And a forestry guy came out, looked at it. He told me to take it down. I've talked to 3 or 4 tree people to take it down. Prices from $3,000 to $10,000 to take it down. I'm not a wealthy man. I haven't got that kind of money to throw into it. But while we were talking about it, not exactly the moment, but a few days later, one of the big branches came down, weighed 2,000 pounds. The guy who removed it told me. So I figured I better do something about it. And I finally found someone who would do it for me for under $1,000, and he did. And I watched that go out, and everybody that I talked to, nobody could tell me what it was, except one guy said it was a dogwood. Have you ever seen a 170-foot dogwood?
No.
Dogwood? Anywhere? Anytime? I haven't. But that's what he said it was. And he took it for the wood. He wanted to do something with it. Probably burn it. I don't know.
Kept an eye.
Anyway, I'm here when you need me.
Just one thing, I want to put a plug in for the chairman of the tree committee, John Moorhead,
Uh,
has done this for several years, many years, and he does an excellent job.
Great.
And we have one of our committee members here tonight, April Lane. Appreciate
Sure.
her showing
How are
up.
you? Been wanting to meet you.
Thank you. Looking forward to meeting you.
Well, we certainly thank you both for your enthusiasm. You have shown your enthusiasm for being on the tree committee. And does anyone else have any questions? Or?
I've got just a comment maybe. We call it a tree committee. It seemed to me, as I look at the function, it should be called the Tree and Landscaping Commission, because landscaping, particularly with new businesses, is a major part of the tree committee. You look at CVS and Tom Gandy's projects. I'm not. Councilman Pine always saying that we're new and so we don't have the answers. We're going into our 3rd year. I don't know how long we can push it. But the question is, why do we call it a committee and the rest of them are commissions?
Does it matter?
I don't know.
I don't know the answer to that question.
It's just always been called the tree committee.
That's right.
We could be caretakers.
The tree is broader than tree when it comes to landscaping for businesses particularly.
We do a lot of tree removal recommendations and
We do.
but we don't, the landscape is spotty, it's with major projects coming. A lot of it is, taking care of dead trees, getting them down.
So the original intent, I guess, or scope of work for this committee is to provide oversight for the town-owned trees. But we do often have conversations, because the planner is a part of this organization who would approve a landscaping plan. If questions were to come about from the committee, that would be a very appropriate time to kind of entertain that dialogue.
And they determine when a tree is to be taken down and when it's to be saved, or if there's any hope for it, they will make recommendations for it and this type of thing. So,
And that's correct.
does anybody else have anything?
And just to kind of give the council as well as the applicants a note of encouragement as we move forward in the agenda, we'll continue to talk about trees, and as well as the town just started its application for year 41/42 for Tree City USA. So we started that today, so you'll continue to have our support from the administrative side as well.
Okay, great. So if there are any more questions or comments or anything, we'll dismiss you two, and you can make your 6:30 meeting.
All right, great, thanks.
And we will be in touch.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much,
Susan.
both of you.
Thanks.
I'll look you up.
Yes, thank you. Hey, how are you?
Hank, I believe that finishes up your.
That does conclude the agenda items for
And
the
the next
administrative committee.
Item is Public Works Committee, and that's chaired by Councilman Miller.
Mayor, continuing trees, Crape Myrtle bark scale update. Mayor Crape, Myrtle, trees represent about 30% of our trees here in Edenton. Recently, several town citizens have expressed concerns about the bark scale on Crape Myrtle trees on their private property. Apparently what happens, small insects attach themselves to Crape Myrtle bark and excrete a sticky residue, causing a sooty mold that sucks the sap right from the tree. The town contracted with Ag Extension agent Katie Shook to collect information on the bark scale problem. Katie has designed and printed an informational flyer on how best to address prevention, control, and treatment of the bark scale issue. In order to keep our citizens properly informed of this problem, the bark scale informational flyer will be included in town billing mail to help educate the public on how best to address this widespread tree issue. There's no action required, this is just information.
Katie knows what she's doing, that's for sure.
And this,
I got a question, is there any way that we could figure out a way that if she's treating the town trees, she can also treat the residents' trees? I
If
mean,
you will call her and ask her, she will. No problem.
yeah, I mean, I just think, I was going, if court could just, I think that the hard part is trying, I read all that stuff in the paper, I was glad it's in there, but it doesn't look like a real easy, I mean, it looks more difficult than I thought, and I think that if we're gonna save any trees, we gotta save them all. I mean, so if we could treat, if Haressa calls and I've got this, and we've got the ability to do it, I think we ought to try to get ahead of it
and Tosh has already started, correct?
Yes, and so the town.
He's a great help also.
The Public Works Department has begun the process, but when you talk about 30% of 5,000 trees, there may be some initiative that some of the homeowners can do depending on what stage of potential damage the tree's in to go ahead and get in front of it on their personal ones. But the town is making a stance to try to remedy all the town ones, but of
Well,
course.
and maybe maybe Katie could find somebody that you could hire to do it. I mean, I think that it just needs to be easy, or it's not gonna get done.
Okay.
That's a good
I mean,
point.
And I'll follow up with her and find out if there's anything.
maybe it's like Art Lane at, or Quentin or
Yeah,
somebody.
is Tosh helping too, if anybody would ask? Are
He is.
homeowners help talking to him?
He is, he's there as informational resource as well as kind of showing what we're doing if anyone stops him or his guys that are out there. So, he is a resource and a tool, but there are limits on what we can do.
Yeah, I understand that, but, or maybe even figure out a way to talk to some contractors and they can do it.
Okay.
Mayor, that's all from Public Works.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. And that's the end of our committee meetings, and we'll go straight into our special meeting. And first on the agenda is a presentation from the Edenton Partnership, annual update, and we'll turn it over to Liza.
Good evening, gentlemen. How are you?
Are you bringing us a grocery store?
I'm pretty loud, but I feel like I should probably get on the mic for the record. So I'm Liza Layton. I'm the Executive Director of the Edenton Partnership. I think I know most of you in this room. To my knowledge, it is the practice of the council to hear an annual update on all of the organizations that you help fund. And since I've started with the partnership in December of 2019, I have not been in front of you. So when Corey asked me this evening, I was glad to take an opportunity to meet with you guys and to share with you a little bit about the partnership. So I think I think this group is pretty knowledgeable on the role of the partnership and what we do. So we are the economic development arm, public-private nonprofit for the town and the county, and we do all or most of the economic development work that's done in an official capacity in the town and county. So I have a quick video for you. It's from the International Economic Development Council, and it's about 2.5 minutes, and it'll just kind of show what economic development is in a nutshell.
If you've ever noticed a new business opening in the neighborhood and felt a little proud of your community,
that's economic development.
that's economic development.
That's economic development.
If you've ever thought about retraining or upgrading your skills at a local college,
That's economic development.
If you've ever had to look for a new job and felt confident that you won't need to move, that's economic development. I want to let you in on a little secret. Economic development is at the heart of every great community. Because a strong economy doesn't just mean more jobs. It means more opportunities, more choices, more resiliency for everyone. So developing our economy really means developing our community. And dynamic, thriving communities don't happen by chance. It takes the efforts of skilled experts on the front lines working hard every day to make our community a little better. That's what we do. We are your economic development professionals. From local to national, our common objective is a stronger, more resilient, more inclusive economy. From new businesses to old industries, small towns to big cities, we understand what it takes to build a vibrant community, helping it grow stronger, where everyone has an opportunity to thrive.
How do we do it? Easy. With education and expertise, we collaborate to attract new businesses and work hard to champion for the ones we have, maybe even help them grow.
We can help navigate funding options, financing programs, and investment opportunities, and connect you with the right government resources. We know technology. We understand workforce development. We are experts in partnerships, mentorships, and apprenticeships.
We can work with councils to develop better strategies. We can work with schools to develop new training opportunities. We can work with community leaders to identify current gaps. And we love research. We can provide information on everything from local trends to international export regulations to implementing new technology to industrial cluster development. Yes, we know what that is. We do 1,000 different things, customized to the unique needs of our community, based on mountains of research and training and best practices. Because developing our economy is a science, and it is an art. This is how successful communities invest in the future.
In sustainability, in opportunity, in resiliency, in ourselves.
Which means creating a better place to live. With purpose. A dynamic, thriving community for all of us. We are here for you, so we can build a stronger community together. Let's get to work. Let's get to work.
Let's get to work.
So one of the things that stuck out to me in this video was the statement that creating a better place to live with purpose. And it kind of got me thinking about a spider and a spider web. So as a spider creates its web, it's purposefully making these intricate circles and loops and designs. And that's kind of what we do in economic development. We strategize and we think about how our communities can grow and how we can create a better place for our citizens to live, and we do that purposefully. So with that, I'll tell you a little bit about the partnership's main focuses right now and for the coming years. So our four kind of main focus areas are business recruitment and retention, workforce development, broadband, and quality of life. And so in the business recruitment and retention, our main goal is to help recruit businesses to the community, help existing businesses when they need to grow or expand their operations. We work with our local community college for workforce development. We can act as a resource for our businesses and help with creating customized training programs and workforce research to kind of see what's available. One of our big things right now is broadband. COVID showed the world pretty much the lack of broadband and the gaps. And in Chowan County, we are actually in a position where even if we were to have newer technology that reached all of our citizens, we would still be behind places like Raleigh and New York and Boston and larger cities. So we're really at a deficit when it comes to connectivity and internet services. We also have a big focus on quality of life, and with that, one of our new goals is recreation, things for younger families to stay in the area and to attract them here. And retirement has always been a big focus of the partnership, recruiting retirees to move to Edenton and to call Edenton home. So these are a couple of our projects, and I know some of them are really important to you guys as they are to all of us. And so I'll say what I can and answer any questions at the end about any of these specific projects. But as you know, The town, Destination Downtown, and the partnership have been working for many years on the Hotel Hinton project. It is still a forefront focus for us, and we were visited recently by Saga, the owners of the property, and had a very, very productive visit with them, we believe. So we think that there could be positive in the future with that, and with the purchase of Hayes from the state. If there was ever a time to act on a downtown hotel, it is actually right now. So we hope that that will kind of help piggyback the momentum we have right now with Saga and kind of kick them into action to go ahead and get some plans down. We also, as you all know, have been actively seeking a second grocery store. For a long time, we have been working on trying to recruit someone to the old Edenton Village Shopping Center. We're still working to do that, but we have had some back and forth with the property owners and then have been unable to get in touch with them the last month or so. So we are not counting that out as a potential grocery site, but we're also beginning to look at what other sites could be feasible for a grocery store. And we have made some new connections recently with a new grocer who we have not discussed in the past, and we hope that that may come to something in the future. One of the other big things that we've noticed and identified as a need is housing, and I know that that's important to this group as well. We have a significant lack of affordable and available housing, and so the partnership is actively working on retirement and senior living communities and housing for workforce and young professionals. And then in the bottom, you'll see a site layout of our industrial park, and Corey mentioned it earlier prior to the meeting starting, but we have had a timber cruiser come look at this property to hopefully get it logged when you guys do the airport project, since it is adjacent, and the crew will already be mobilized. So we're in the process of doing that, and then we'll hopefully be able to have that a little bit more site ready for a business that's interested in putting up a building or opportunities for possible spec buildings in the future. So one of the other big things that I wanted to touch on with you guys is our 2021 Broadband Grant. A company out of Brunswick County called the Atlantic Telephone Membership Co-op came to Chowan County. They sent the county a letter and asked would we be willing to partner with them on a broadband project. And they have over $40 million worth of grant money in the southeast of the state, Brunswick, Pender, New Hanover, Duplin, and Robeson counties. And they wanted a foothold in the northeast. And so they submitted a grant to the Department of Commerce's NTIA, which is the National Telecommunications Information Administration. And that grant was submitted back in August for $25.9 million. In that grant, ATMC pledged a 10% match, so an additional $2.8 million to serve 5,500 locations in Chowan and Perquimans County. And of those, 62 were completely unserved businesses. So those are businesses that have no access right now to internet. And 19 of those were what's called a community anchor point. So that would be a school, a fire station, police station. So there were 19 community anchor points in the addresses that they would serve. And it's 100% fiber to the home network. Those awards were supposed to be announced in November, and ATMC received an email this afternoon that said that they were not going to be making those awards until early 2022. So it's kind of, we're still in the waiting game, and we thought we'd kind of have an answer in the next little bit, so that's a little bit of the bad news. But the good news is that since they were notified, they believe that they're still in the running, and so that means that we're in the final stages, we hope, of that grant opportunity. So more to come on that in early 2022, and they are committed to Chowan County, Perquimans County, and if they're not funded on this grant cycle, we'll pursue other grants. So on the tree topic, since that seems to be a theme of tonight, cartoon here from Peanuts. It's a beautiful little tree, isn't it? Yes, it is. It's a shame that we won't be around to see it when it's fully grown. Why? Where are we going? So this cartoon is really evident of what economic development is. There are projects that we are working on that some of you all, even me, may not ever see come to fruition, or they may not happen in our time here, and that's just kind of the name of the game. But I thought this was fun to show you kind of where we are going and what we do have going on for the future. So the future of Edenton is dependent on a couple things. One of them is population. So with our retirement and with our recreation projects, housing projects, we're really aiming to increase the population of Edenton, because if you'll see on the next slide, our population has been in decline, and I think everybody has seen this with the census data, but you can kind of see the peak in 2008 where this is Chowan County, so 15,000, and now we're down to just a little over 13 and 20.
Can I ask you a question on that? That doesn't include, I keep asking this question until I get a definitive answer. That doesn't include like somebody that buys a house here and lives here part of the year.
It depends. Depends on where they are registered
To vote.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, is there any way to get a handle on how many? 'Cause I mean, I think our population is, I mean, not from whatever the government
It has
counts,
not got that.
but I don't think it's. I mean, I think that all the people the people like that live in the cotton mill or village that are part time. I mean, they're here a lot. I just think it'd be a good idea to somehow figure out that number.
I think something else happened to that deal too, with COVID. They did not sit around the individual people surveying, the people that had not sent theirs
You're
in,
correct.
which they have always done before. But due to COVID, they did not do that. So I think that has a lot to do with our fallen numbers.
Yeah, and I don't
There's no way
disagree.
we lost that many.
No, and we are a second home community for many, and they are not captured in this. But the unfortunate part about that is because it's not captured, this is the number that we have to use to apply for grants and for other opportunities, and so it is still kind of important.
It may help us with grants.
Good, you're absolutely
Well, I
right.
think it'd just be a good thing to know. I mean, I wonder how like a city like Charleston deals with it all the time. There's got to be some way to just to have that number somewhere.
I'll see what I can find for you and follow up.
Okay, thank you.
So with our population decline, we've also, this is our civilian labor force, so our workforce has been a big issue recently with COVID, and so you can kind of see the COVID spike where the civilian labor force and the number of people employed went completely down during COVID, and now we're kind of back up to the stagnant place that we were, which it's great that we've recovered, but we still have plenty of open jobs, and our industry is continuing to grow without workforce. So this is really where we need to start focusing on recruiting people to move to Edenton, to replenish this workforce. So as I said, the future is also dependent on housing, availability, and affordability. We have very little of both here. A business climate, so available sites for new and expanding businesses. You can't sell anything without a product, and that's been one of the biggest issues in economic development throughout the state in the last year. There's just no sites available, so we have to make sure that we have that and that we have a policy-friendly business climate, which I think we do here in Edenton. So this is Chowan County. This is our goods and services producing business establishments, and you can see we kind of hit our peak in 2008, and then it dropped with the recession. But we've stayed pretty resilient during COVID, and our number of business establishments is continuing to trend upward, so that's really positive news. And then the future of Edenton, and where the partnership is also putting a big focus, is on amenities. So that's your retail, your restaurants, and your recreation, your 3 R's. And so we have to make sure that if we're bringing industry in, we have places for them to eat and to shop, and for their children to play sports, or even for them to play sports. So I wanted to show you guys a little bit of fun facts. So we're talking about what we need to do better, or things that we can work on, and this is actually some rankings of Edenton where we do pretty well. Obviously this one is going to be a source of contention, but in the 30-mile radius, we are ranked number 2 Food Lion, beating Williamston, all of the ones in Elizabeth City, Columbia, Plymouth, Hertford, with, what is that? 533,000 visits a year. So on the next slide, we have Roses. And while Roses is a different type of store, we are ranked #1 within 50 miles, our Roses, for individual annual visits. And this data was from November 1st, 2020 to October 31st, 21. So when we're thinking about need, this really goes to show a need for a department type store, or a store that sells kind of the unique items that you can only get from Roses.
How many Roses stores are there in the state? Do you know? I can see that.
I don't know.
Okay.
11?
I thought they were sort of phasing out.
They probably are.
Okay.
This one is really interesting. So in a 50-mile radius, we're the 4th Walgreens. And then the last one is the one that I thought was the most interesting of this set, is that we are the 3rd ranking Advance Auto Parts in the state of North Carolina. So we are doing some things well. And then the most fun statistic is we're the 6th highest Dairy Queen in North Carolina, and we're in the top 15% of the United States. So definitely an asset that our residents like. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys have. And
Liza, first of all, I appreciate all your hard work on the grocery store issue, and a lot of that work is not seen by the general public, and a lot of that work requires you to maintain confidentiality, and sometimes I hear that from people, y'all aren't telling us enough, and we're really truly only telling what we can, and there are a lot of limitations. I understand from your comments that there is a new grocery store chain that we've been talking to, and I'm assuming you cannot release that name,
Right.
Is that correct?
that's correct.
Did I also hear you to say that we were possibly looking at a new location other than Edenton Village Shopping Center?
We are. So when we talk to folks who set up these grocery stores and build them and develop them, we not only share with them that center, but we also share with them other properties. There's a couple properties north of 17 that are in the Opportunity Zone, which provides tax incentives or tax credits for folks that are interested in developing them. And then any other available property we show people as well.
And I'm only one person on this council, and I certainly don't want to tell you how to do your job.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is just very personal
Sure.
opinion and very personal frustration with the owners of Edenton Village. I personally do not feel like they've been very good community citizens, and it's hard to judge somebody or a company until you walk in their shoes. I get the feeling they're not even trying, and I think it's a waste of our resources to continue to try to help somebody who doesn't want to help themselves and clearly doesn't want to help the town of Edenton. So I'm all in favor with any grocery store that expresses any interest in looking at other locations.
Absolutely, and I think, that space was existing, so for somebody like an IGA or a Piggly Wiggly, it's very attractive because it's already there, it's a second generation store, and they would, in theory, need to do limited work to the facility, so it's a cost savings with that. But, with some feasibility and some folks that we've talked to, everything happens on the other side of town. So even to try to revitalize that is a hard sell.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions?
You said something about the hotel. Is there any way that they are gonna renovate that and bring it back to life?
We hope so. They recently visited and were very positive. I don't know more about that now, but I know that Mayor Vaughn has been very active in that, and he is the chairman of the partnership. So he typically does most of that on our behalf just because of his years of history with them in the past. And they are in regular contact with him after their visit. So we're really hopeful that they can get the funding lined up and that they'll do something in the future.
When you say future, can you kind of narrow that down? You can't. Okay.
I can't. No, so
You serious?
that's the funny thing. So when they were visiting, I asked them. I said, in a perfect world, if things aligned exactly right, what's your time
I
frame?
go back to that tree.
Yeah. So you're right. You're absolutely right.
I can tell you, Mayor Vaughn is in contact with them weekly.
Right.
And they did say, in the last 30 days, that things have changed dramatically with them, because they had a good year, and that they are planning to progress with it. They have a bank now that is willing to work with them, from what I can understand.
That's great.
But I can assure you, every effort is being made. Liza has been a very integral part of that. The whole partnership has been an integral part of that, and Mayor Vaughn works with them almost, weekly, almost daily sometimes.
Super.
And I will tell you that they have replaced the roof on the hotel. They have cleaned up the pigeon excrements on the inside, and they have had folks here inside the building
So
last week.
resources into the.
They are.
That's,
Councilman Cole?
Could you give more details on your vision for recreational improvements for the town and for the county? Are there some particular projects you're looking at, or specific recreational activities that you're looking at? What's your thinking on that?
So we have a quality of life committee at the partnership, and that is their main focus, is to figure out how to improve the quality of life of our citizens. And they met early on in the year and decided that recreation was key to recruiting young families into the community. And so Mary Scott Hagler is the subcommittee chair for that group, and she has been working with Deanna Chesson and the group that are interested in the pool. We've also been talking about the feasibility of some expanded recreation facilities with outdoor sports, baseball, softball, things like that. And then something that's always really important to us that we haven't quite figured out how to address yet is public water access.
Sambo, would that tie in with the Hayes Plantation project?
Yeah, I think it would. And we got a lot of planning to do on that before we get to that point, but yes.
and is it not true that the town is looking at these little parks, develop these parks too?
And to chime in on what Liza said, we are focusing on some neighborhood redevelopment for neighborhood parks, ones that seem to be isolated. And as of the last Edenton Partnership Board meeting, I did reach out to their recreation chairperson, and we'll join the conversation with them. That way we can share the town's view and opinions of needs that can be paired together with ECP. So the ECP has full support from the administration to share resources, opportunities, as well as visions from our citizens.
And those three focuses coming together could change this town dramatically.
You could.
Yeah.
You're absolutely correct.
Any further comments or questions for Liza?
One more.
Sure.
At one time, I noted we were looking at how to provide the next step for older people who no longer can live in their homes and maybe need and be in a place where some more care can be given to them. Is any progress on that? Is that still a priority?
It is. So,
I'm pushing for that.
yeah, there's a lot of folks who are, but the Continuing Care Retirement Community, CCRC model was looked at back in maybe 2014, 2016, on the Saga-owned property behind Food Line. It's called Beechwood. And to our knowledge, that is not their intent anymore, but we actually do have a committee that's focused on retirement and housing, and they are actively working to kind of see where we are, create a position paper of what's our next steps, and have been talking to some consultants that work in senior living and kind of the step down aspect of independent living to maybe some more assisted base, and what the feasibility would be for that here.
Okay.
It's a big push on our board. We have a lot of people who would be interested in living in a community like that, but also just think that it would be great for our community.
Especially being a certified retirement community.
Mm-hmm.
And some of these retirees come here and their parents are still living,
Mm-hmm.
and that would be ideal for them
Yes,
to live. So.
absolutely. And so we are a certified retirement community through Retire North Carolina. We will renew that this year in January.
Liza, thank you very much. Your talk was
And thank you guys. We couldn't do our work without the support of the town and of the council, and so we appreciate everything that you do and for funding our organization. And I gave everybody a card, so if there's anything you ever need, please reach out. I'm right on the other side of the wall over here, and I'm thankful for you guys and for the opportunity to speak with you tonight.
Well, we thank you.
Thank you.
The partnership is a very integral part of what goes on in the county, and they have been working hard, and I mean hard, on this grocery store deal and several others, and the broadband, which we need so desperately. COVID has proved how badly we need broadband here, so we thank you again. All right, the next item on our agenda is the Bolo route for the police department. Corey, I'll let you take lead on that.
All right, thank you, Mayor. So the Edenton Police Department recently received a grant from the Department of Public Safety, specifically the Governor's Crime Commission. The grant totals $20,872.40. This grant will be used to purchase an additional 16 of the BolaWrap non-lethal weapons for officers to use. We currently have 4 of those devices within our fleet, and what this would allow us to do is purchase the additional 16 and get us up to 20. And so what we would need to do here is to approve the budget amendment which Virginia has prepared tonight for this line item under the special meeting. So
Okay, at this time I'll entertain a motion to go with the addition of the 16 Bolo wraps.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I've seen that demonstration, when they actually shoot that, it sounds like a gun when they shoot it. Everything is loud, but it's amazing how that wraps around their leg or their arms like this.
It works.
It works, it really.
Yeah.
And would this mean every officer would be able to carry a bolo wrap?
this would put us, for all staff that we have now, they would all be issued one of these devices. Yes.
Has it been used, with the 4 we do have had, have they been used often at all?
I do not know. I can't think of any instances where the chief is or his officers have had to use these devices. They're just one more tool for those guys and gals to have.
Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The next item is Department of Transportation Historic Marker application for St. George's Orthodox Church. Corey, I'll let you take that one as well.
Thank you, Mayor. So the town administration staff received an application for a right-of-way encroachment agreement for non-utility encroachments on primary and secondary highways on behalf of the St. George Orthodox Church. The church and town staff are requesting this application due to the historic nature of St. George's Orthodox Church. There was also dialogue that was included in the agenda packet to note the historical significance of this particular location. This would be the first step of 3 in order for the plaque to be placed on site at this church. And what this allows us to do is submit the application to DOT for their approval. Once we would receive that, the next step for the town would be that we would need a certificate of appropriateness from the Historic Commission as well as a resolution on behalf of the town. What this allows us to do is to at least seek approval from DOT for this encroachment. So we will need a vote for this.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved, Mayor.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Just one question. St. George is applying for making the application, is that on behalf of the Markets will recognize St. John's Church, so it's not St. George's Church being recognized, but St. John's, is that right?
As I read it as St. George.
Yes,
I
and
think it's both.
it formerly known as St. George's Church, but is now St. John's Church. So that at the time of its creation, it was St. George's Orthodox Church.
That's right.
And now it's named St. John, so they're two of the same. They're the same location with the new name.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, and that concludes our special meeting. And at this time, I'll entertain a motion to go into closed session with our attorney regarding NCGS 143-318.11.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, we are in closed session.